Not great, Bob. The Badgers lose a key part of the recruiting department. Max Steinecker to USC. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Ryan Herrings. As always, appreciate you jumping in. A quick pod here to talk about the newest news today. Max Steinecker. Max Steinecker, who has been kind of tied to the hip with Luke Fickell and Pat Lambert in the recruiting department. Pat Lambert is the director of recruiting. Steinecker, director of player personnel. Today, it's been announced on multiple spots on Twitter, leaving to go take a position on USC's recruiting department. So Steinecker going in conference, Wisconsin to USC. A lot to unpack here. And quick comments, Pavel, thanks, brother, for always tuning in, says, yeah, it's over. Kyle Maitre, another good dude, says, this blows. I want to start here. I want to start with Max. He is a great dude. Max Steinecker is phenomenal. And I mean, I'm certainly not like friends with him. I mean, we have a good professional relationship, I think. I'm going to wish him well wherever he goes. He's phenomenal. Great dude. Like, this is not going to be in any way a show to minimize the impact he's had on Wisconsin or how good he is. He's really good at this recruiting thing. And we've had him on the show. How many people have I had on the show, recruits in the last couple of years, where it's like Max and Pat, those guys are incredible. Max Steinecker, incredible. He's going to be missed. This is a big loss for Wisconsin. Big picture. It's a big loss. It's a great hire for USC. And it's a guy I'm going to root for because he's a really good, genuine dude. And for whatever you want to say about the landscape of college football, people moving, he busted his ass for Wisconsin while he was here. And that's all you can ask of anybody. If you hire somebody in the civilian side, in the private side, and he busts your ass for a couple of years and then leaves, he busted his ass for you. That's what you asked for. That's what you hope for. Great dude. I want to talk big picture, though. This is kind of college football where we're at. And we're in a world where Ohio State just lost their defensive coordinator to Penn State. Right. We're in a world where this is happening all over. And Wisconsin, especially coming off the last couple of years they've had, is not going to be immune to this. They're going to lose talented players. They're going to lose talented coaches. And that's what this is. This is similar to Ohio State losing their defensive coordinator to Penn State. This is similar a year ago to Alabama losing Caleb Downs to Ohio State. No program is immune to this, is my bigger point. We've seen it happen at Alabama. We've seen it happen at Ohio State. We've seen it happen at Georgia. We've seen it happen at Michigan. We've seen it happen at every program in the country. You're going to lose good people. You're going to lose good people, especially to places of high pedigree that pay well. It's as simple as that. I got to tell you, I think it's a smart professional move. I don't know any of the intricate details of it, but if you're a recruiting coach, like you're a recruiting guy, your life is recruiting, that's what you do. There's like 3 or 4 better places in the country maybe than USC. They can draw 100-mile circle around their campus and probably fill their class with 5-star guys. If you're a recruiting coach and you get to go to USC, who is a blue blood, recruit in that area of the country, it's no disrespect to Wisconsin. I love Wisconsin, man. I bleed red and white. I bleed the motion W. Y'all know this. It's no disrespect to Wisconsin. If I was a recruiting guy and USC came calling, I might consider it. That's one of the best places to be a recruiting guy in the country. And to me, it's a career progression move, and I'm never going to fault a guy for that. I'm never going to fault a guy who takes that jump into a place that I think is a better recruiting spot. And I think most of the country would agree with that. And that's not a knock on Wisconsin. That would be true comparing USC's recruiting spot to just about any other team in the country. I think it's probably a smart career move. And he busted his ass while he was here. It is what it is. And this is kind of what college football is nowadays. 2 takes I want to go from this. The big picture, the impact on Wisconsin, short-term and long-term. Let's start short-term. This hurts. Not going to sugarcoat it. Not going to do that. This hurts short-term because, again, this is an elite recruiter. This is a guy who's really good at his craft. That's why USC is hiring him. He's really, really talented. I have thought for a while, like it was probably a matter of time before he left. I just kind of had that gut instinct. I've talked about that on Discord. So this doesn't shock me, but yeah, it hurts short term because here's a guy that's already been building those connections with those 2026 kids, those 2027 kids, right? And we've already talked about how I'm kind of worried that the 2026 class may not match up to the 24 and 25 classes. I've already had that thought. I already think it might be a bit of a struggle. And now you lose one of the key cogs in building those relationships with those players. Short term, I think there's an impact there. You're going to lose relationships that he's built. You're going to lose some connections that he's built. You're going to have to rebuild some of those. Now, there's redundancy on the recruiting staff, right? There's other guys there that I'm going to get into in a second. There are other people there that I'm going to get into in a second that are going to pick up some of that slack. But short term, I don't think there's any way around it. This is a blow. And, let me just say that, and I'm going to get into long-term impacts in a second. I think you can find other recruiting guys, but not everybody can be great in this role. Let's be super clear. You can't just go hire a young, energetic person and say, fine, now go close up 4-star recruits. There's a science to developing relationships. There's a science to understanding how to connect to young players. There's a science to building connections. There's a science to selling. It's like not every young, energetic person can be a great salesman. It's just not how it works. Max Steinecker is a guy who's really good in this role. So he's not irreplaceable, but you have to make a great hire to replace him. You have to hit on this hire, right? Or internally promote the right guy and then bring somebody else in, because you did lose a talented person in that staff, and everybody brings talents to the field. He's an A+ recruiter. He's an A recruiter. We've heard it again and again. I've talked to other people in the industry who have raved about him, other recruiting analysts, other people who track recruiting, track high school recruiting. They rave about Max. This is a legit guy that we lost. There's no sugarcoating it. So now you got to go hire another guy. You got to go and hire another really good recruiter, which here's where I'm going to tell you, I think they can. Listen, Pat Lambert, who is still on staff, I think is a great, great person. This is the group that hired Max originally, between him and Luke Fickell. They have a track record. Obviously, Luke has a track record now of finding guys to put in this spot. Last year, they went and got the LSU guy. They get one. It was Brandon Rose off LSU's personnel department, recruiting department. So I think they're going to be able to find somebody dynamic to plug into this. But again, short term, I think you're going to have a bit of a hit. You're going to lose some continuity. You're going to lose some relationships. And if you don't make a good hire, if you don't replace that talent that's leaving when Max leaves, then you could start seeing some recruiting issues pop up. I'm going to talk about long-term picture here in a second. We're going to get into that next, plus all of your comments. I think big picture, guys, I'm not, again, big picture. I love Max Steinecker. He is a dude. He's great. I'm also kind of nonplussed by it because I think in the big picture, Luke Fickell understands how important it is to have really good, talented guys there. You still have Pat Lambert. You have other really talented recruiters who I'm going to talk about. I think with having Pat there, the staff already still has a kind of an ace in that recruiting department, and they're going to backfill. I think they're going to be okay. It's not to diminish. Again, I want to be super clear. It's not to diminish anything Max did. I do not want him to leave. I would not want him to leave. This is a major blow, but I do think they're going to be okay. I would not go crazy about this. I think this was bound to happen at some point. I don't think you keep both those guys in your recruiting department at Wisconsin forever. I think eventually one of them was going to leave. And it sucks. It stinks. You wish you could keep them forever, but that's just not college football nowadays. It's just not with the amount of money some schools are going to throw around and the amount of opportunity some schools are going to throw around. He's still young. He's still going to work through and find a career progression somewhere. Again, very grateful for what he did while he was here. I can tell you for a fact, he busted his ass for Wisconsin. Now they just have to find another guy. We're going to take a quick break. I want to get your comments. I haven't even looked at the comment section really yet today. So I'm curious if people are more freaked about this than I am. Again, I don't think this is great. This is not a win for Wisconsin by any stretch at all. But I think it was kind of inevitable is maybe where I'm at. We're going to take a quick second for a friends. So come back. I'm going to talk long-term why I feel better. Okay, not better. This isn't a win for Wisconsin. Well, I feel okay long-term, whereas I think short-term is the bigger hit for Wisconsin here. That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. First, a quick break for our friends of the show over at Gametime. Gametime is the number one source. If you need tickets to anything, go to Gametime. Find tickets to the Kohl Center, Camp Randall, whatever it is, monster truck shows, ice fishing contests, metal contests, like their welding contests, whatever it is. Like they have tickets to everything on Gametime. I can't even think of the term I'm trying to think of for that one, but they have tickets to everything on Gametime. Go find those tickets. Go find your avenues for entertainment, for excitement. Go do more things in 2025 over at Gametime. It is an incredible place. Do more things over at Gametime. Find the tickets for them, last minute deals, better inventory, better prices. The easiest user interface you'll ever find over at Gametime. Download the Gametime app today. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Snag the tickets without the stress with Gametime. Create the account. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create the account. Redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Let's come back into this. Let's get your comments. Where are you all at? And I think it's fair to point out, one of the biggest things we've talked about with the Luke Fickell staff and why we've been confident that this can turn around is the recruiting. I think that's a very fair point. And now you're taking one of those big cogs out of that. So I think that's worth acknowledging as well. All right, let's get a couple comments here. Herb says, we got to get back to being a transfer team, it looks like. Herb also says, is Pat still here? No, he's still here. I mean, these things change by the minute in college football, but as of now, Pat's still here. Nathan says, time for someone to step up. Step up, Pat, you're on deck. I mean, Pat's great, and there's other guys on staff. Let's hit that really quick. So here's who is still here. You have Pat Lambert, director of recruiting. You have Isaiah Green May is in the recruiting department. Jared Thompson is handling kind of the transfer portal, college scouting stuff. I've heard really good things with him. Brandon Rose is a guy they hired from LSU, their recruiting department. Greg Gillum is the chief of staff. And then they're going to bring in somebody else to kind of help fill in for Max. I would hold off panicking until you see who they bring in. I think they're going to find a really good person. I just thought that, again, I think Luke Fickell recognizes the importance. This is the same guy who orchestrated and architected this recruiting department that we all love. So why wouldn't we think he couldn't do it again? He's the guy that helped build out this Pat Lambert, Max Steinecker recruiting duo that we really like. He's the architect behind it. You know, if an architect makes a couple nice houses, you probably think his next one's going to be nice too. I think he's going to continue to have a strong recruiting department in-house. And again, I've thought that this would be inevitable. I really thought at some point, I've talked about it on the Discord. I don't know if I put it out on the show, but I've talked about it on the Discord. I just felt like at some point Max was going to leave. Brent Hinshaw says USC pays well. Smo says next man up. JB says, yay, awesome. I'm going to read that in a sarcastic voice because that's what I assume JB's at. Yay, awesome. This is insane. We've had three coaches. We've had coaches last 3 weeks under current regime. We got to do better at retention. We've lost coaches. Yep. I don't know. So here's the thing, JB. I hear you, but you can't. If somebody is offered what they consider a better opportunity, how can you retain them? I don't think, again, I'm looking at the lens, and I love Wisconsin. I'm biased as hell. Y'all know this. Like I'm born here. I grew up here. I moved away, but I'm back here. I love this state. I love that program. That's not Max Steinecker, right? He's not from here. He doesn't have that inherent love for Wisconsin. And he's offered an opportunity to go be a recruiting guy on USC staff. That's a blue blood that recruits in California. I don't know what we were supposed to do to retain that. It just feels like, are you going to overpay USC's offer, whatever it is, by several $100,000? That doesn't make sense to me. I just think at some point, it's like if you were the lead engineer at a really good mid-firm software company, and then Google comes offering you a job, you might leave. And you might leave just because Google is in that top percentile of opportunities and career progression matters. I think that's more what this probably is. Steve Schweitzer says, only proves that Fickell is not the guy for Wisconsin. He's lost control of the program. If Max was so valuable, you needed to pay him. Wisconsin football is dead. I mean, I don't agree with this, but I appreciate, again, this show is all about all the perspectives, and let's talk about it. I appreciate anyone who looks at this and says, we've really been hyping up the recruiting side of this, and now you've lost one of those guys. If you can't stand on that pillar of the foundation, then what do you have? I think you still have Pat Lambert. So that's why, and Fickell, you know, you can be frustrated with Fickell for not holding on to him. Fickell's also the guy who built these guys, not built them, but put them together and built this recruiting department. So I'm going to see what he can do, kind of keeping it going and rebuilding it. D.A. Wolf says, did we not have enough money to keep him? Why would that be? What is the point of a new TV deal if we can't pay good people? I just don't think you can pay everyone and compete with USC for everything. And I don't think it's just a money move. Like, he gets to go recruit at USC. I think that's the bigger part of this. He gets to go recruit at USC. I think that's if you're a recruiting guy, that I keep saying, I don't want to beat the dead horse, but I mean, that's like going to build cars at Ferrari. I know nothing about automobiles. I don't know if that makes any sense. But like going to be a paleontologist at Jurassic Park, like it's a better opportunity as a recruiting guy than Wisconsin. It just is. There's so much in-state talent there. It's a bigger brand nationally. I just think it makes a lot of sense from a career progression. You go to USC as a recruiter, and I have no idea what his career progression or goals are. Speaking of Max, but it figures if you go to USC, you land a bunch of elite talent there. That's a stepping stone to then going into like running the Ohio State or the Georgia recruiting department. This feels like a stepping stone progression job for him. And it makes sense to me. Gregory says, damn, what's going on with the Badgers? Y'all falling off a cliff the last few years. ILL, baby. We got an Illinois fan randomly jumping in to talk about our recruiting department departure. Gregory, man, welcome to the show. Listen, Illinois, look, it'd be fun. I can't wait to play y'all this year. Nathan says, I'm not worried about recruiting now with just Pat Lambert. I felt like Max was the big driver. Oh, I am worried. He was the big connector with guys like Carter Smith. Yeah, he was great. None of this is to minimize what Max did. Max was incredibly talented and good at this, 100%. I've talked to parents, recruits, a lot of people who have reiterated that. They have to replace him with a really good hire, period. You can't just get anybody in there and say, nope, we're good. You have to, you lost an A plus A type recruiter. You got to replace him with an A plus A type recruiter. But again, I think you can do that. I think Luke Fickell's already proven he can do that. And we'll see who they get. Justin says, let's all relax, please. I believe Fickell will find someone to fill the void. It's kind of where I'm at, too. That's kind of where I'm at, too. Let's keep going here. Ian says, find out if J.J. Watt will recruit. Yeah, like someone else mentioned James White for this type of role. The thing is, for these types of roles, you almost need somebody who's young and not a multimillionaire. Like, recruiters got to be grinders. You're talking about guys who are going to spend 60, 70, 80 hours a week on the road, getting up early, responding to DMs, texting recruits, like going to colleges, going to schools, talking to coaches, going to clinics. Like, I'm telling you right now, J.J. Watt's not doing that. J.J. Watt's got millions of dollars. He's going to kick his feet up and watch Mad Max Furiosa. James White's not doing that. Maybe I could be wrong, but you need a young, hungry dude to do those recruiting things. Okay. D.A. Wolf, will he hire some of our recruiters away? I doubt it, because I don't even think he's going to USC to run it. I think there's still a GM over there. And honestly, you look at a recruiting department, USC is not going to hire away like a Isaiah Green May. I don't think it seems like a guy. USC is going to have their own network of people. There's already going to be people in that building. I doubt it. Maybe we'll see. I don't fully know. Any more questions here? Justin Tyler, we need to bring the guy with ties to Wisconsin, former player or graduate, perhaps. I do like the idea of more ties to Wisconsin, but for the role that Max had, I think you just need to find the most dynamic guy. And quite frankly, find a guy with ties to Florida. Find a guy with ties to Texas. Find a guy with ties to Georgia who has a ton of talent. That's kind of where I would go. Bring in another guy like Isaiah Green May with Wisconsin ties to work in the recruiting department that you can kind of groom into the next spot. But for the role that you're filling with Max, I go and try to find a dynamic dude that, at one point was coaching high school in Florida, or was coaching in Bama, or was a recruiting coordinator at Alabama, Birmingham, or somewhere down there, man. That's where I want. Go find somebody with connections to a dynamic part of the country. I'm telling you right now, like, there's other people. Max isn't the only great recruiter out there. He's great again, but now you just got to go find another guy. And I'm not as terrified about what this means for Wisconsin long-term, because you still have Pat Lambert. You still have the coach who kind of built this thing together. You have good recruiting guys. Jared Thompson's really good. I think they're going to be okay. Like, it's a short-term. To me, it's a big hit short-term because of the connections you're losing. Long-term, I think they're going to be okay, because they're going to find another really good young recruiter. I believe they will, because they've already put an emphasis on it. They almost sniped somebody last year from, I think it was Bama. They got LSU, a guy from LSU last year, Brandon Rose. I think they're going to be fine. I really do. And I don't want people to panic too much. It's not to diminish what Max was or did. He's great. Now they just got to replace it. Keaton Riley says, how realistic is to compete for championships when this program has proven to be a minor league feeder for larger programs? I mean, I don't know if it was ever realistic to compete for championships. I remember when Luke Fickell was hired and we were all really excited. Rajiv and I talked about it, and I said, I still don't think we're going to win a championship at Wisconsin. I don't know. Does that stink? Yeah. We weren't winning one really under BA, Chris, Bielema, Gary Anderson either. I just don't. That's really hard. It's really hard as a non-blue blood to do that in college football. But like, again, you look at the landscape of college football. A lot of schools are feeder programs for other schools at this point. At the beginning of the show, I talked about Alabama lost guys to Ohio State. Penn State loses guys. Ohio State loses guys. Georgia, Texas. All these teams are losing guys. Everyone's moving. So I think it's more fluid than just we're a feeder program now. This is a great question. I have no idea, Neil. Neil asked, what is the status of the former UW recruiter that went to Michigan State, Saeed Khalif? I have no idea where he's at. I know Michigan State a couple years sent him packing. I have no idea where that dude's at. Somebody in the chat might know. I don't know where that guy ended up going. JB says sign 3-year contracts, give them an extra $100K, large buyout to leave. You have to tie them up at the beginning, not try to keep them later on. Yeah, I hear you. It is a fair point. I don't know what the contract structure for a typical recruiting guy like Max Steinecker is. Is that typical? Do recruiting directors and directors of player personnel and GMs typically have large buyouts? I don't know. I think it's hard to impede the career progress of people and run a healthy culture too. At some level, you can't just chain people to Wisconsin. Like if they want to go and you have a buyout that doesn't let them go, you're probably not getting the full benefit or effort out of them anyway. Chris says, unsure why this falls back on Fickle. I doubt he wants to see any staff leave for more money. UW needs to fund the staffing pool better. Yeah, listen, money could always be better at Wisconsin. I don't think that's any surprise. I don't think that's any secret. Again, I don't think this is a pure money move either, although money always helps. I'll wrap it up there. Again, big picture, Mike Witt says Ryan Herrings to replace Max. Man, my wife would kill me. My wife would kill me. 2 kids. My wife would kill me. Younger Ryan, man, would have really enjoyed it. But our younger Ryan would also not be as good as Max. Wisconsin should shoot higher. Let's just say that. Wisconsin can do much, much better than Ryan Herrings. Yeah, Herb says, I agree. It was never realistic, Ryan. And Adam Pettis says, if you didn't see Max moving up, you are nuts. If you want to keep him, empty your pockets. Yeah. Like, these multiple things are true. He's a big loss, and it was always probably going to happen. It's as simple as that. Now they got to replace him. Luke Fickell already found a Max Steinecker once. He found a Pat Lambert. Now you just got to find the next guy. I think short term is the bigger impact. I talked about it. I'll wrap it up there. I think short term is the bigger impact because that's where the connections with the 2026 class are going to get lost, unfortunately. Long term, I think they're going to be all right because I think Pat Lambert is excellent. So we'll wrap it up there. Again, I wouldn't freak too much, guys. Not to undersell it, it's a big loss. Max really good at what he does. But I do think long-term Wisconsin will be fine here. It's the short-term impact that's going to be felt more. On Wisconsin, appreciate you guys so much. We will talk later. A couple of fun things coming up. Obviously, we'll have a late reaction show tonight. It'll be late because I'm going to watch Will Garlock play tonight. I'm going to go watch Zach Kinzinger play later this week. I should have some content directly from both of those players, future Badgers, which is going to be really good, really fun. So again, later reaction show tonight. But let's beat Indiana, guys. Let's fire up on Greg Gard, on Wisconsin, and we will talk later. Appreciate y'all so, so much.